All right, welcome to the Laptop and Desktop Workgroup call, the 11th, actually, I think this time, on October 8th, 2025. I am back, finally, after the last session taken on by Alice. Big thanks to her for taking over the last time. A quick reminder to those joining the call, this session is being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, please mute yourself, turn off the camera. And this is, I guess, a great tie-in into our regular housekeeping and on the code of conduct. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. If you do want to speak, absolutely feel free to interrupt me. I, as a moderator, am talking a lot. I'm sometimes not seeing when people raise their virtual hand. But please, if others are talking, please let them finish. Raise your virtual hand if you want to say something in addition or want to interject something that others are saying. As I said before, I am the exception. If you want to say something while I'm talking, please feel free to interrupt me. That's completely fine. This is meant as a platform also to offer the chance to have a conversation. So obviously we want to invite that. And in terms of agenda, we have a quick look, just like usual, at our meeting minutes from the last time, which I have to admit, I've put a record in terms of lateness, in terms of writing up the minutes. I actually managed to do this morning. I've published them on the wiki, but I will give you the brand new update in terms of what is in there now during the call. A quick rundown, which is just a quick reiteration of the recording. Which I put on last time, or this time, sorry, actually, just this weekend, because we've had a brief change in terms of how the recordings are handled. I should probably point this out really quickly also for anybody who has not noticed the changes. The recordings are still up on YouTube, but now the recordings have been separated into a separate channel. We have now two channels for FreeBSD, one in terms of the FreeBSD project, and then we have a channel for FreeBSD project minutes, and that now is holding and keeping all the various recordings of various minutes, not just the Laptop and Desktop Workgroup call, but also the Developer Summit calls and various other recordings are all kept in that separate channel now. So in the future, the minutes will be put up on that channel, and I have also updated the wiki to update the modified links, obviously. For a brief, short period, those recording links on the wiki were broken, so if you were looking at that, they now have been updated if you are looking for the previous call recordings. So, where are we with the minutes? Let's take a quick look. Last time, as I said, big thank you again to Alice for standing in and moderating the call. And we looked at the FreeBSD Foundation's laptop project as usual. But actually, sorry, I should be starting with the governance. We reviewed the approach that the Enterprise Working Group has adopted for handling and managing the various areas of interest and areas of work. We have now also taken on the suggested and agreed to take on this maturity model. And Alice also helped with updating our worksheet to add the various categorizations to the items that we have and carry in the worksheet. And some of the items now have also already been graduated, particularly those that are under the umbrella of the FreeBSD Foundation's project. And there's still a bunch of items that we can actually take some time today also to check whether there's anything going on there or how to handle those items that are still waiting to either being picked up or whether we have no clarity in terms of what the status is. In terms of the Foundations project, recently we had the status update on August, from the August update, where we saw a bunch of work surrounding Wi-Fi and also additional work in terms of standby work, where Emeric basically was working on providing a boot image or a bootable image for us to basically test the status quo, because as it is right now, it's not really, so to say, ready for production, but it is definitely ready for testing. And he's definitely looking also for input from people willing to test and try out the new standby that is under development. Alice also went through the worksheet, as I said. We did a bunch of improvements around there, and CD-ROM actually mentioned that he brought over a backport of the UMBM kernel module, that is the 3G driver that exposes an Ethernet device, if I remember correctly. And there's also a Bugzilla thread about the whole thing that is also linked in the minutes. Finally, we mentioned also that the NVIDIA driver was seeing some updates, but was not really seeing the same performance in terms of OpenCL. And I think the AI workloads were also not on par of, for example, Linux. And this is basically what I've put in the minutes, unless anybody has anything to add or feedback or questions. I think we can close the minutes on that and move back to the slide deck. For today, we have our usual action items. This is basically the usual suspect that we have kept since the beginning of the call. Everyone is invited to please attempt to stay up to date on the Foundations laptop. There's a project planning board. There's also graphical representations on what is going on. There's multiple phases in different areas. And we can find that on the Foundations GitHub project. And I think that is also the very nice tie-in into Alice's section. Alice, hello, welcome back. And with that, I would hand over to you, if that is okay.
Hey everyone. For those who are not familiar with this project, the FreeBSD Foundation is working on a package of laptop-related functionality that relates to things like security, the committer experience, developer experience, and general sort of experience of using FreeBSD on the laptop. So we have here the September report. It's just been published today, so you might be the first people to read it. So as you can see, we have a GitHub repository. It's not for code, but it's just for documentation. You can see on the left-hand side, there's a whole list of previous monthly updates, which you can read at your leisure. There's also a few other announcements and notes in there. We'll draw your attention also to the Q3 roadmap at the bottom, which was also updated today. It's more of it is forward-looking, but it's more of just updating it to reflect like the progress. Yeah, the bottom one. We've just updated it to reflect what progress was made and what that now means for future items. So you can see normal format. It's mainly high-level updates. So if you want to understand more about each one, click on the GitHub issue link. So we can see that there's some work completed on Modern Standby, which is S0I3. Then if we just keep scrolling a little bit, not too far, graphics, I'll speak more about that in a minute. But we have a new graphics port. So it's not a new version of the current one. It's a whole new port that is for the latest graphics drivers. So it will be more of experimental cutting edge or bleeding edge code in there. Then we had a graphics bug that's been fixed, and it seems like there was a fair bit of work involved in that. One thing that I'll speak to a bit more in a moment is there's been a new part 2 of a 3-part guide for Wi-Fi development that Tom wrote. Audio is progressing pretty well, and that's a lot of that code is now available. As I mentioned a moment ago, the roadmap has been updated, so in your own time, feel free to go and take a look at that. Then we've got work in review and progress updates, so I won't go over those in details, but you can find those on the GitHub repo and take a look. This is some work that's been done by Jean-Sébastien. It's essentially there was a lot of work that he'd been doing on Linux graphics drivers. However, at the moment, the DRM Kmod port only contained long-term stable releases, which was 6.6. And when we get to 6.12, it'll contain 6.12. The kernel contains also patches that are to support newer drivers than 6.6. So we discussed whether it would be possible to make the graphics work available, the drivers available to anyone that wanted them. And so there, John Sebastian worked with, I'm completely blanking on the other name of the person that works on this, I'm so sorry, to bring together this port, which basically contains the latest drivers that he's been working on. So if you would like to learn more about that, there's a link to the mailing list, which is the desktop mailing list, and you'll be able to go and read more information there about that. So this is great because it actually does make quite a big difference to use 6.9 instead of 6.6. And actually 6.10 won't be too long. It's nearly finished. We now have Jean Sebastian on the call.
Oh yes,
if anybody
absolutely.
had
Let's jump back to
questions
that.
for
And
him.
of course, yes.
DRM latest Kmod, it targets mostly FreeBSD current because it might because the Git branch may rely on patches to Linux KPI which are not yet backported to a release branch. In the current state, that's not the case because DRM Kmod main branch works on FreeBSD 15. Everything was backported, but for instance, when the DRM drivers from Linux 6.10 will be ready, then it will only work on current until the Linux KPI patches are backported, and they will be at some point. But it may not be always in a working state for stable branches.
So
does it answer your question?
Yeah, I'm wondering. Okay, so if I'm, let's say, if I'm on 14.3 current, no, is that a thing? 14.3 current? 1 second. How is this working? No, it's just 14 current, or is it?
Current is always the latest, so currently it's 16.
16. Ah, right. Okay, that's why. Okay, I was confused. Thank you. So it's basically actually past 15. It's like the latest branch, right? Okay, so
yes,
that explains it. Okay, so if you have current, then that port will work. That port will, I suspect, will not be available on any other release versions or state. Well, on stable, I understand it will be, but it might not work, right?
Yeah, it will probably certainly vary over time. For
Yeah.
instance, there will be in the coming weeks the 6.10 drivers from Linux 6.10. I mean, and at first they will only work on 16 current, and if we do not find any issues, then we will backport patches, and the goal is to backport patches to Linux KPI to FreeBSD 15, because the target is that we will have 6.12 drivers available for FreeBSD 15 when 15.1 is released, so sometime next year.
Lars, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so if I understand this correctly, we are talking about graphic drivers for integrated AMD GPU on Ryzen processors.
not only AMD, Intel GPUs, integrated GPUs are covered by these drivers, and discrete AMD GPU as well.
So it says AMD on this slide. That's wrong then.
Oh yeah, it's probably, it should have been Intel and AMD.
Okay. So you can amend the slide.
Right. Okay. Good point.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Lars.
my fault. Sorry. My fault. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, we're gonna fix it in post, right? Okay.
Yeah, the main goal of this port is to make it easier for people to try the latest version. It should be possible to run, use them on a daily basis. But yeah, surely it will be less stable than the other ports, like the ARM drivers from Linux 6.1 and 6.6.
The one thing I always keep asking myself, and I don't know if anybody can take that fear off my shoulders. I've had so many people in the community tell me, well, when you're looking at notebook usage and portability, then you really should be running on current anyways, because then you get all the most recent stuff, and obviously this one included. And I'm still wondering how much of a, let's say, potential stability and crashes and stuff like that happening on current is it that you might run into with a machine on current. Anybody on the call working on current and being happy with that, or is there anybody who could share their experience in terms of that?
I use current for my daily drivers.
Okay.
For years.
All right. Okay.
And
yeah,
it's never been an issue. I'm using that for my paid job as well.
All right.
That's the same laptop I'm using for this call, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay.
As the transition to 16 is very recent, I haven't set up anything on 16 yet, but I've been running 15 current for the last years with no real issues.
Okay. All right. That's good to hear.
I think it's a matter of, if you're a developer, then you definitely want to be on current. But if you're not a FreeBSD developer, kernel, etc., you probably want to stay on something that's more stable, just so that you don't have to worry about some of the bumps in the road that does happen on current.
Yeah, I'm always wondering whether I do have the knowledge, to fix the issues that one might run into if you're actually running current. But at least, okay, that gives me some confidence. If you guys have been working on it for years and even in production, then I suspect maybe I really should be taking a jump also on my framework, because I'm also using that on a daily basis. But I've always been afraid, to run into problems that I've experienced in the past, particularly with Linux, where when you run, I don't know, distributions like Arch, then yeah, you screw up your system and you really screw up your system. Then it takes days to get back to a state where you can actually return working instead of just fixing things. And I've never had that. Well, on the release branches, basically, not even on stable. I've been running on stable, but not on current yet. But
it's called stable for a reason.
Yes, that is a very good point. Yeah.
To avoid any troubles, I use ZFS boot environment.
That is a very
it's a no-brainer for me when I want to try to update the kernel or base packages, because I'm using PKG base for years as well. And I just set up a new boot end update. And if it doesn't work, I reboot to the old one, and
I continue my day if I cannot fix the problem like right away.
Good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I have to admit. I have to admit I have not once needed boot environments in the past, and I haven't tried them out yet. So I guess I should be looking at those more closely before I take the leap.
Yes.
I'm gonna try those out already. All right, thanks. Great input. Any other questions around the graphics port and the drivers?
So I'm using mostly the AMD drivers, but for testing purpose, I use the Intel one. And I hit an issue since Linux 6.7, the drivers from Linux 6.7, that prevents the laptop from turning off when I shut it down or reboot. Like if I reboot and I'm using the Intel driver, it is likely that when it ends all the stuff to terminate the kernel, then it stays on with the power is still on, but the screen is off and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't reboot, it doesn't turn off. So I identified during my last debugging session that it seems to be, I'm pretty confident that it's related to the new thing from Intel called graphic microcontroller, and they use the acronym GUC everywhere about this one. And yeah, I was wondering if other people are seeing the same problem where they cannot turn off their computer and they need to force it to turn off. Are they people
I
on this call?
I don't have a computer with a new Intel processor.
Quick question. I'm waiting for a framework 12-inch with an i3, I think, which is, I think, a 13 gen Intel. Does that fit the picture, or is that not new enough?
Oh, no, it's probably new enough.
Okay.
I'm using, so I hit the problem on my framework 13 with an Intel 12th gen
All right. So, okay.
CPU. I think the problem is older than the Linux 6.7 ports that we have, because what happened in 6.7 is that I restored the default in the driver where the graphical microcontroller is, the fact that it is enabled or not is determined by the driver automatically. And before that, it was turned off forcibly on FreeBSD because it panicked at the load of the driver. The load is fixed, but seems that it causes other issues later. So yeah, because the screen is off at that time, it's difficult to debug.
Yeah.
So, quick question: How can we help you with that? I mean, if we encounter the problems, we'd let you know, or is there anything we can try to provide more?
Yeah, I think playing with the tunable that restores the default behavior, even if you are using 6.1 or 6.6 perhaps, and then see if you see the problem as well. I'm not sure how to debug that, but at least for now. But I would be curious to know if other people are hitting the same problem, or is it specific to that framework 13 12th gen? Because I never heard other people having this so far.
Can we share that tunable in the chat so other people can also try that? And
Good idea.
And the tunable is something that you can only set through a bootloader, or is that like a sysctl?
I don't think you can set it as a sysctl because it will only exist once the driver is loaded,
right?
and
Okay.
the value is used during load. So I will.
Then it's a bootloader. Yeah. Okay. Loader conf. All right. Perfect.
So this will restore the default behavior where the driver will decide whether it should enable that component or not.
Perfect. All right.
And yeah, I just discovered that it seemed to be related to that lately because it completely screwed my Git bisecting session. Because this was disabled before, and I was trying to reproduce on with the wrong assumptions. So to reproduce that, the problem, I simply play like 3-4 minutes of videos using MPV and hardware accelerated video decoding. And usually this is enough to prevent the computer from turning off or rebooting when I reboot.
I haven't used an Intel in a while because I don't know when my 12th gen framework died, but I could swear I've had that in the past, to be honest. But I don't think it happened all the time. But again, as you said, I mean, how do you troubleshoot that? By statements like that, it's like it might give you a gut feeling that there was something in the past that it was kind of already there, but it's probably not gonna help with pinpointing the origin.
Yeah. I will try the USB debug stuff.
Actually, I just realized I still have a framework with 11th gen Intel. Would that happen on the 11th gen as well, or is that too old?
Yeah, I don't know when Intel added this component.
Okay, so it's the GUC, right? So once that is in there, then
yeah.
Okay. I will Google if I can find anything about that. All right.
I know we had this slide last time around, but the email has not been sent. So Emmerich is doing an updated version of the test image, and it should be. I will keep a closer watch on whether the email's gone out this time around. So hopefully it will be in the next day or two at this time. So keep your eyes out for that.
A quick question. I'm not sure if we can actually answer this on the call, but I imagine that others are going to have that question as well, and maybe we want to follow up with Emmerich if there is any, let's say, canonical way to figure this out. Because right here we're talking about this modern standby, which is this S0 I3, or in the contrast, there's like the old ones, like S3, and I don't know what the others are, but the more recent notebooks have this, let's say, modern standby, and sometimes you even have the feature that you can have a fallback to the legacy style of standbys. And I'm wondering, obviously, yes, it would be great to get feedback on standby, but at the same time, I imagine that we want the feedback, particularly on the modern standby. And how can people actually tell the difference whether they're using the modern standby or the S3 version?
Yeah, good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, exactly. I figured we probably didn't have the answer right now in the call, but maybe we want to follow up with Emmerich and figure out how to help people differentiate that, what they're actually using, because otherwise he might not get the feedback he's expecting.
It's fair. Yeah, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
And I think Lars has his hand up as well.
Yes, so I have a laptop that I can switch between old and modern standby. So I'd be happy to have a go at this.
Wonderful. Thank you. That would be great. All right. Shall we go to the next slide? Okay, so if you're feeling inspired to do Wi-Fi development, and why wouldn't you be, you can now read part 2 of the 3-part guide of how to do Wi-Fi development on FreeBSD. And there's also a monthly wireless call for developers interested in understanding what's currently being worked on. And I'm not totally sure how you find out and join that call. So feel free to reach out and message me, and I can probably help you figure out if that's of interest. Or look, you can email Tom there. He's put his email address.
Well, there is a bunch of information in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Get a coffee.
Yes.
Sit down.
Most definitely. That almost makes me wonder whether I should go look for my more recent Wi-Fi chip and put that into my framework. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great resource for not just as a reference for the current developers. They probably know this stuff already, but obviously for bringing new people in to do that work, new volunteers want to start, then that knowledge isn't just in someone's head now, it's actually out there and available.
Well, that is really cool. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And there'll be one more coming, and I think it might be probably next month.
Perfect. All right.
All right. The next one. Oh, look at that. That's the end. So if you would like to know more about the project, there's a link in the slides when you get access to the slides, or you can look in the old slides because it's the same every month. Project roadmap, work in progress, and so on and so forth. So yeah, thanks very much, everyone.
I have one question.
Yeah.
I have to admit I I dropped off let's say the things that were going on in the mailing list recently because of EuroBSDCon and the work I was preparing for that. And so I was attempting to catch up also in preparing for the call. And I read through the mailing list and I saw there were some emails from various people around desktop related stuff, and also let's say, I don't know, suggestions and I don't want to call it, well, maybe there are requirements for some stakeholders in the community surrounding particular areas that might be relevant to the foundation's project. And I think they were also tagged with the prefixes as we suggested in the past. However, I got the impression that there was no reply to those emails, and I was wondering whether there's any expectation that we reply to those inputs, or are they just taken on somewhere, documented somewhere, or are they just remaining on the mailing list, and eventually, if they are being picked up, then they're going to be put on the foundation's table of things to do. What's the approach to the feedback? Basically, that's what I'm wondering. I don't know if we have a canonical way. I don't know.
There isn't a canonical way, but I think if there are messages that haven't been replied to, let me take a look and I'll see if I can see what's going on.
I have to admit, maybe I missed a follow-up, so I'm not saying that there was no follow-up, but I got the impression that there was no follow-up. Let's put it that way.
It's possible, yeah, of course. Because there's been, as you mentioned, there's been EuroBSDCon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
These things can easily slide through the inbox without being replied to. So, yeah, I'll take a look and see if there are any that have been missed.
Right. Okay. That actually brings me to a second point. We can either talk about this right now or maybe at the end, depending on which way we want to hold it. We are coming to this stage of the year, or this phase of the year, where things get wonky with the time zones because of daylight savings times. What a great invention, right? Some countries have it, some countries don't have it, and then UTC is all over the place, and UTC is no longer where people expect it to be in terms of Eastern time and Pacific time. And basically, the next time we have this call, we will actually be shifting UTC to keep it at the same place for Pacific and Eastern. And eventually it will move back, I think, if I remember correctly. But for the time being, we'll probably move from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. But I have it at the end of the slides. But Alice, I think you suggested having a calendar, and I'm not 100% certain how the others are handling it. Right now, I have a Google Calendar that I share. I think is an ICS file. I think you mentioned the Chaos Project. The Chaos Project, I think they have it like on a website where they show it, right?
Yeah. We can talk about this at the end if you want.
Okay, of course, no problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I mean, I'm completely open to suggestions I want to point out, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I know how it would work. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm happy to talk about at the end is fine, or whenever really.
All right. Okay. Perfect. All right, then let's move along.
I heard, I saw the message about the Dell video driver possibly being put on hold. Is there a path forward without Dell?
They'll have to be, because essentially our contact in Dell, I think the team doesn't exist anymore, so that there's no one to help, is my understanding. There will have to be a path forward. We'll just have to figure out how to resource it, because we have the code. I think part of the challenge is because it's for the webcam driver, part of the challenge is there are some license issues, that there are licenses that we can't put into BSD at the moment. So, but yes, there is a path forward. It's just a matter of figuring out what that is. I don't think there's any hard blockers per se.
Great, thank you.
Alice, you did some great work in cleaning this up. Thank you very much again. Also, I saw, watched the recording from last time and saw that you guys also started to improve the content and documentation surrounding things. Is there anything anyone wants to add in terms of information or items? Anybody on the call wants to say something about any of the items? All right, so right now we still have a bunch of items that basically are listed as not started, neither in terms of development nor in maturity state. And I guess there's a bunch of stuff that is most certainly of interest. I know for a fact, VirtualBox and FreeBSD, I know there is a Bugzilla ticket working on updating the current port. I probably just have to look that up. So I'm fairly confident that this has been started and people are working on that. And most likely even we could probably argue that it is close to getting graduated. So I'm just gonna, do we have a comment field or something? Maybe let's put it in the update here.
This was an issue in the spring before version 7 was.
Yes, exactly. There was a major version change, and there was a bit of difficulty with that, but I remember that there was a bunch of progress around that. Bugzilla ticket for updating the port. Chris will look for and link it here. There you go. So putting this as a to-do for myself. What else have we got here? Browser support and improvements. Sync is missing. Compiling packages takes a very long time and breaks now and then. Okay, I'm not 100% sure if I understand this correctly, because for Firefox, at least, I'm fairly certain that sync works, because I could swear I have my Firefox set up to sync. So I imagine this is probably related to other browsers, maybe Chrome. Is that possible? Anybody on the call using Chrome and having sync enabled? Okay, looks like not. Okay, that was Martin suggesting that. Okay, I'm gonna put this down here. I'm gonna see if I can find Martin's email and shoot him an email and ask whether he was referring to Google Chrome, if we can clarify that. The thing is, there's actually 2 ports for Chrome, if I remember correctly, because there's a Google. No, sorry, it's not correct. There is 2 ports. There's one Linux-based one, and there's one Chromium-based one. Yeah, so there's one native FreeBSD one and one Linux later one. Yeah. I'm not even sure. I think I'm running the native one at the moment. Scheduler and more responsive behavior, preemption, performance tuning. Well, I did see some people talking about using a different scheduler. I think there was some conversation about that on the mailing list, but I have to admit I have not really caught up on that completely yet. Not sure what is going on there. Has anybody read that? Anybody got any insights on that? On that preemption?
There was a bit of, what would the word be? Kind of foundational work that was being done for this by Olivier, who was on the call but has now left, unfortunately. And he was, but he was really just dealing with, oh my goodness, what's it called?
Heterogeneous cores.
Yes, it was scheduling for heterogeneous.
The performance
cores,
and energy cores, or what's it called, right?
Yeah, that's right. But I think that wasn't to get us. That was basically just to make it possible to then make the performance changes. So you've basically, you've got to decide how you want to distribute workloads across the different processes, and therefore, that requires a human to make decisions and design for that. And that's the part that isn't, we don't have in our project, but that needs to be done. I mean, power management is a sort of sister topic to this, and that is something that hopefully the foundation will take on, because it won't help with performance as much, but it'll make the battery last longer.
Exactly.
Which is related, but not. I mean, I guess the question is that is somebody working on this, and in which case, does it have an owner?
I don't really know. I mean, obviously, as you said, I mean, with this foundational work, the foundation, let's say the groundstone has been put down, and things become possible. I'm not aware of anybody working on it at the moment, but I don't know. I mean, do we put it down as blocked? I mean, what do we do? Or do we leave it at not started?
Yeah, I mean, is anybody working on it? Because if not, I'd say it's not started.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Okay.
But who raised it then?
That is a very good question. Tiaoki, yeah.
I don't know that name.
I'm not even sure. I could swear that he was also writing something. Wasn't he also involved in some parts of the mailing list on this one?
He usually answers graphical questions.
Was it graphics? Okay, maybe I'm mixing up things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not likely to be anyone who's working on it. It sounds like.
And it is a challenging topic. I wanna add. It's not something that everyone can do. So yeah.
All right.
Let's leave it.
Well, I think I think it's still not. I would say it's not started.
Yeah.
Personally.
Okay. Installer to support UFS encrypted disks.
You have to ask Kirk about that one.
Okay, you did. All right. What did he say?
No, you have to ask Kirk about that.
You have to ask. Oh, sorry. Well, I should have done. I could have done that during EuroBSD. If anybody had, I had realized that. Sorry about that. I know that there is a bunch of work happening around the installer. Actually, I went to the talk at EuroBSDCon about the various things that are happening around that. And I know that disk layout and stuff like that is definitely also in there, also particularly in terms of the encryptions, the encryption variants that you can have. But I'm not 100% certain if that is on their radar. I'm gonna revisit the FreeBSD talk and check if there's anything in there. Detecting and setting up the right graphics drivers. Well, it's also tied into the installer. That I think is there's definitely work happening on that one, if I remember correctly, because there's a general idea to make a graphical, I think KDE based installation possible.
Yeah,
right out
you're
of the
going
box.
to you're going to need that if you're going to set up
Exactly.
KDE from the installer.
Right. And if I remember correctly, it's basically there's a so-called two-stage installer being worked on. So I would assume that this has been started, sort of, because there is some work happening around that.
I installed Alpha 5 last Sunday, and there was nothing in this area of starting to deploy KDE.
Okay.
It was just a normal installer, so it hasn't hit the.
Definitely, yes. It's not ready for 15, is my understanding. So it's definitely not something that anybody can just try out right now. But I suspect that for later releases, there's a very good chance that we will see something happening. Probably not for 15 because that's too early. But well, question is, I mean, if it's all right that we say it has been started, I don't know.
Is it Is this related then to line 5? You think?
What is 9.5? Sorry.
Line.
Oh, line 9.5.
Row 5. Excuse me.
Oh, row 5. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Graphics installer, generally improving the installation improvements to user-friendly installer.
Yeah.
Yes, that is closely related, but this one I would argue is, let's say, the way I see it, having the installer as it is right now, because it's being transposed into Lua, if I remember correctly, and that is not necessarily something that is graphical. You could still have an installer that is text-based, but delivers in the end a graphical environment. The way row number 5 is worded, I would expect to have an installer that is then actually being presented in a GUI. And the way I understood the talk at EuropeBSDCon, that is a target state, because there was reference to the Ubuntu installer, if I remember correctly. I forgot the name. They have a code name for their installer, and that was also mentioned as a best practice example, to basically have something that is leading the user through a graphical user interface, and which obviously opens up all sorts of new opportunities to be more user friendly and offer more interactivity in terms of the installation experience. And a bunch of the stuff that has been developed is, I suppose, ready to be transposed into a graphical environment. So yes, that is very much related. It's not the same, though, I would argue. But here we have the we have the reference to the KDE. I suspect it when we're talking about target state, it probably points to the same thing, I would argue.
Yeah, but it depends upon if you're using a machine with a on-chip graphics controller, or if you're using a workstation which doesn't have an on-chip graphics controller but needs a discrete one.
Yes. Yeah, then you will need potentially other drivers from ports, and I don't know what. Yeah, and even the onboard chips will need the port right now, which is not in. It's just it will never be in base. I mean, there's GPL drivers. We will not get that in base. But yes, okay, there might be a function, some kind of functionality that just pulls the port, or I don't know. I mean, there's with things moving to PKG base, that might get easier in the long run, I suspect. For simplicity's sake, I would actually follow Alice's question and would like to suggest we we fold that into the other and just mark that as a duplicate.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I'm gonna just flag it here with a duplicate to line 5. Let's put it like that. All right. Installer logging and visibility of actions. Well, that ties also into the improvements around the installer. And it is in the installer category, rightfully so. If I remember that one correctly, people were referring to the way the installer works right now. When a user that has not been using FreeBSD in the past or isn't already a versatile FreeBSD user, they will not be able to understand what the installer does under the hood. Because in reality, all that the installer does could be done through command line commands by user.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But there is no way to learn what the installer is doing unless, I don't know, somebody looks into the code for the installer, but not many people are going to do that, let's say. And some pointed out that, I don't know, apparently there are other installers that actually show you the commands or show you the stuff that is happening in the background. I don't know. There were other operating systems were mentioned. Not sure if it was Debian, or which one was mentioned. But people were suggesting that it would be interesting to show users what is happening in the background. It's not just, installing something. Because, for example, sometimes the installer kind of does that. It shows you that it is extracting base TXC, that it shows you that it is extracting kernel TXC and stuff like that. So it is in this weird middle space where, yes, sometimes it kind of shows you what's going on and what kind of stuff it is doing. And sometimes it is extremely abstracting away on what is going on in the background.
Yeah, but what is the target? The goal here?
That is exactly the question.
Show the end user what's going on, or is it gathering a log for support and remote diagnostic purposes?
Yes.
I mean,
that's two different kinds of features. Yes.
Yeah. And Solaris, for example, gathers an enormous amount of logging information during the installation process, but the end user doesn't see it.
Mm.
It's put together in a massive log that is available. If you need to send it to support for debugging or something.
Mm-hmm.
But is this to raise the awareness of the end user or to provide a support facility? I mean, that's we need to know.
I suspect both is relevant. When we look at enterprise use cases, I would suspect that the logging and the support functionality is the more important aspect, and the learning is something that there's a twofold aspect. If I remember correctly, there was also interest in having a more how to call it, like an expert mode where people can choose various roles, just like when you have a Windows server, you select roles that you want to deploy. This should be a file server, this should be a web server, and then you get various software packages. And same on other operating systems. I think, again, coming back, was it Debian, I think, where you could choose, well, you want a web server, you get Apache installed. You want a file server, you get Samba installed, and these kinds of things. Once you enable this kind of expert mode, we could, or obviously it would be possible to expose more functionality or more insight into what is going on in the background. But at the same time, I suspect that if we really want to look at this as a learning experience, I wonder whether it would not be more helpful to have better documentation. I don't know, maybe a journal article about what's going on under the hood with the installer, and outlining that in a little bit more detail than, programming something into the installer, because I imagine the effort for programming something into the installer versus the benefit of learning something is way higher in terms of doing programming work than just having somebody write an article. But that's just me. I don't know. And I suspect chances are very little that anybody is going to start programming on the installer just to make this as a learning experience. But the logging, I can very much imagine that this is something useful to a bigger audience, let's say. And as a matter of fact, I suspect there is already some logging. I'm just not sure how to get to that. But yeah, again, I'm jumping to assumptions here. Wondering what to do with this. I'm gonna check out again. This kind of brings me back to the EuroBSDCon talk. Review, follow up with developer, ask for input. Maybe there's stuff happening. Let's see. I think I've kept you long enough. Unless anybody has any questions, any other questions, I think we're gonna come to the close of the call. Hold on a second. And
I think I just have one kind of request.
Yes, absolutely. Please share.
Is it possible to enable a reminder in the calendar entry? Because
oh yes, absolutely.
I completely missed the beginning of that meeting.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah,
head down in.
As a matter of fact, the calendar is also a bit of a controversial topic, because we were wondering what is the best kind of calendar or way to share the calendar. So as a matter of fact, yes, great suggestion. I'm happy to add a reminder. The question is, what kind of reminder do we prefer? Just the regular reminder, or an email reminder, or because there's in the Google Calendar, I think there's various ways of putting in reminders, if I remember correctly.
I imported the calendar in Thunderbird.
Okay. Okay.
I cannot add.
Okay, I see.
Reminder.
I will check it out. I will check it out. I will look for a way to add a reminder. Yes.
Yeah, I'm also transitioning to Thunderbird these days, since I have recently retired from work at the age of 66 years.
All right. Okay. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes.
So I'm ditching Windows completely and
good on you.
Going for open source for my future administration.
All right. Well, I will do my best to add the reminder so everyone has that. And I think it's going to be important, because next time we will have the daylight savings time funk. It's going to happen again. We're going to actually.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
we know.
So this means we will be starting 1 hour later in the European space. So it's going to be 6 p.m. UTC instead of 5 p.m. UTC, because that is going to keep the morning and noon times for our stateside friends. Because I figured that people will have a harder time joining at 11 or 2 p.m. In contrast to us Europeans or people more on the eastern parts of the world. They will probably, because it's nighttime or evening time, it should hopefully be easier to join. So I hope.
But you were in Austria, right?
I'm in Austria. Yes, I'm based in Austria.
Yeah, and I'm in Stockholm, Sweden. So we're in the same time zone.
So I think it's going to be 8 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. So it's 1 hour later than usual. During the summertime, it was 7 p.m. in our time zone, but now it's going to be 8. So that's why I put it in yellow plus red on the 6 p.m. So I think I actually did already update that on the Google Calendar, but I will recheck that to make sure
Yeah,
that
but after going back to wintertime, it will be the same.
Yes, then it will jump back again. But that's why I'm saying it's kind of weird. Now we jump kind of forward, and then we will be jumping backwards again. It's all over the place. But we will get back to normal eventually. All right, so that's it, I think, for the time being. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining, and I will see you
Thank you
next
very
time.
much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.